Hello again. Well, I got asked a question recently, which was basically, what's the best gramophone soundbox under $100 and where to get it from? Now, that's a very good question, actually, and one that I'm probably not actually qualified to answer. However, I'm going to give some opinions. Now, the reason I say I'm not qualified to answer is because I'm in the UK and I don't buy anything in US dollars, and the soundboxes that I have access to are ones which are sold in the UK, or ones which were sold in the UK. And so I can give a little bit of information, and I've got a few bits and pieces here on the bench, my understanding, my opinions, but I can't really recommend for other countries, certainly not if you're actually purchasing in America. Anyway, let's have a look at some stuff. Now, I'm going to try and do this all in one take, with no gap, so let's see how I get on. I haven't got a script or anything. So first of all, soundboxes. Now, soundboxes come in a variety of flavors. I've got half a dozen here. These are by no means a full selection. I'm just gonna put them out actually. How are we going to do this? Well, let's start with this one. Now, this one actually says His Master's Voice soundbox. Now, this is actually a modern fake. This is a piece of junk, really. If you see one of these on a machine, it's probably fake. The whole machine, that is. Although these soundboxes do sometimes appear on other machines. Now, there is a real soundbox made by I think it's Thorin's, which I have done a video on, which is very similar to this. This is basically a clone of it. It's got a few differences. I'll do a link or something to that video if you want to know the subtleties around that. But essentially, if the soundbox looks like this, especially if it says His Master's Voice is a complete giveaway on these sort of soundboxes. These are not H&V soundboxes. These were never made by H&V, and they are fake. So we'll put that one to one side. Now, otherwise, we've got a few classic soundboxes here. Now, this one here is an exhibition. These soundboxes were actually in use from the early 1900s right up into the 1920s. So it started off as a sort of premium soundbox and ended up as a sort of like low-end soundbox. And there are lots of variations, and a lot of them were made in America, and like this one, and some of them were made in other countries as well. And there were lots of fakes of them as well. So some have writing inside which it kind of sounds like it's an exhibition, but is actually a clone by somebody else. So you get these on older machines. That they work okay. I mean, all these soundboxes really need rebuilding. This, you can see the dried up gaskets. This is a mica diaphragm soundbox. This is more suitable for sort of older records, more acoustically recorded records. Although it can be used on later records with with a certain amount of success. But anyway, this is an unrebuilt exhibition. It's a good soundbox, but it kind of rather depends what you want to listen to. Certainly not sort of like sort of 40s, 50s stuff. I mean, arguably you wouldn't listen to 40s and 50s stuff on an acoustic gramophone anyway. That's a whole separate video. But this is more for 1910s, maybe early 1920s type stuff. So anyway, there's that soundbox there. The next one that I'm going to show is this one here. Now, this is a number 4. I should have brought out a number 2 actually. There is one in between. A number 4 is a very classic soundbox. This is His Master's Voice version. They were also made by Victor. They vary. Some are made of brass, some are completely brass, some are made out of pot metal, some are made of a mixture of pot metal. These soundboxes, these date from the sort of like mid 1920s or so. Very much a sort of interim or crossover soundbox between the old acoustically recorded records and the more electrically recorded records, or the electrically recorded records. These were supposed to deal with both. They do have gaskets. The gaskets are rather harder to get to, or a little bit harder to get to. than maybe on this. I mean, I don't know, maybe not. They come to pieces in a similar fashion. Gaskets can be changed on these. The micro on this one's actually in good condition, whereas the micro on this one you can see is actually all cracked. So that's a sort of good kind of all-purpose sound box. Now in the UK these are relatively common. Most of them are brass, or at least partially brass. They've lasted quite well. They're not particularly difficult to come across. They're not particularly expensive. Whereas in America, I understand that good examples, especially all brass examples, are worth quite a lot more money. Now, after this sort of sound box, move on to sound boxes like this. Now, there is a Victor orthophonic sound box which looks quite a lot like this. There are some differences. This is a sort of more, what could we say? I suppose late 1920s. I can't remember. Certainly early 1930s onwards. In fact, H&V was selling gramophones fitted with these sort of sound boxes right up into the 1950s. Now this is a 5B. Hopefully that's coming out on camera there. There was a 5A. I think there was a 5 as well. And the Victor one is similar, but it's it's different. So there we go. That's that one. Now the last three there, these ones here, these are all H&V or Victor style sound boxes. I pick. I've got this one here. This is a sort of older. I suppose you could call it. European or continental style soundbox. I mean, I'm sure soundboxes like this were available in America and in other countries. These sort of soundboxes were quite common on the sort of cheap. Well, I say quite common. This style of soundbox is older. It's sort of more the same sort of era as this one here. It's got a mica diaphragm. It's got a sort of more old-fashioned spring arrangement down here. Now I would be lying if I said I knew what machine this came off. I've got two of these. I do not know what they came off. I believe they probably came off sort of continental horn gramophones, or the machines put together out of cheap parts which were made in vast quantities in Switzerland and Germany. I don't know that for a fact, but I've not been able to find out any information. All the parts on here are sort of machined plate or machined parts which have been nickel plated, whereas the rest of them have castings. I think pretty much all of them have castings. So I think this is an older, simpler sort of sound box. Again, suitable more for the sort of records that this one is. It's sort of earlier acoustic records, or earlier acoustic records, as opposed to later electrically recorded ones. So that's that one. That's why I pulled that one out. One of the reasons. There's more to sound boxes. A little bit more to sound boxes. I'm showing you the fronts of them. We'll get round to talking about the backs of them a bit more in a moment. And this one here, this actually has a metal diaphragm. This is a Columbia, dating 1930s probably. I'm not quite sure when this one came in. This is a Columbia. I don't know, actually, Columbia 15 or 15A, something like that. It doesn't actually say on the back. Now, I think this is 1930s, and I think these were made up probably later than that, maybe even post-war. It's got an aluminium diaphragm, more suitable for electrically recorded records. And in fact, this one here, this has a mica diaphragm, again, much more suited to electrically recorded records, although it will play acoustically recorded ones too. Yeah, so there's a selection there of sound boxes. Now, one other really key thing about sound boxes is that they don't all have the same fitting on the back. So they've all got a hole, basically. They've all got some sort of hole on the back. But it's not all the same. And as to what you might actually buy for a gramophone rather depends on what it is that you're trying to fit it to. Now, I have done a video where I've talked about the sort of cheap, or I say cheap, the fake gramophones that these are fitted to, and the fact that the hole on the back of these is actually non-standard in size and nothing else really fits it. And you know, there are some dodges or tricks to get things to fit. So I've done that in a separate video. Now these sort of older sound boxes here, these often have a sort of smooth, I say a smooth fitting. This one's actually got a screw on it actually, but they're quite often just plain. They've got no screw, no nothing. It's just a smooth tube there, which is, I think, if I remember correctly, external diameter about 3/4 of an inch, and on a sort of on a tone arm. So, and this is actually the sort of tone arm off a, you know, I say off a cheap sort of Italian, it's not Italian, Swiss or German machine. Then this sound box here will actually fit it. Let's see if I can get that in camera shot. I've got several cameras running. One of my cameras didn't want to start, so I'm on 3 cameras. I might have been on 4 otherwise. But anyway, hopefully you can see that. That fits okay. That's not really in camera shot though. Maybe we'll do it over here. Does that look better on that one there? Yeah, you can see there maybe. That's fitted there. So that sound box there would fit that tone arm, you know, quite well. Now this tone arm here is off a sort of cheap portable. It's got the what's that called? Swan neck. So this is very much kind of H&V style. It's not a H&V, I'm sure. I think this is actually made by Garrard, which was a big parts supplier. They did motors and other parts in the UK. And although it's a bit of a tight fit, something like this number 4 will actually go onto here. Now, before I shot this video, I did check that it would go on, and it does, but it's a little bit tight. Yeah, so it goes on, and then it rotates into position like so, and that fits well. That fits well. That's a nice fit. That's a nice fur fitting there. So that's the sort of tone arm that sound box will go on. And in fact, the Exhibition has the same fitting. Looks rather different at the back, but it does have the same fitting. And it should go on. Whether it will is another question. I don't know. I've actually tried this on this. Yeah, your mileage may vary on these sorts of things. That should fit on there, but I don't really want to force it on. Actually, there we go. Hopefully that was on camera a bit. Let's bring it over here, and I can rotate that, and that's on. So that fits as well. It's the same fitting, and I'll take that off. Now, that if I get a pair of calipers. What have I done with my calipers? So I've got some cheap calipers here. If I measure the outside distance, the outside diameter of that, that's 17.88. I mean, you can get a sort of, you know, sort of somewhere in the sort of 17.5 to 18mm range, and that's what that one takes. Now the 5A and the 5B and probably the 5 also, which I don't have an example of, H&V in their wisdom decided to use a bigger fitting. So if I take this, although it looks the same, if I take this and put this on here, it just wobbles around. I mean, that's no good at all. And then also Columbia, and again I'm talking the UK here, Columbia produced tone arms like this, and some of them had these sort of flats on, which is a bit of a giveaway, but I don't think all of them did. And the fitting looks the same as well, actually. But if I put even the number 4 on, it doesn't fit on. It wobbles all over the place because this fitting here is actually smaller. And let me just try and get a measurement there. So 16.93. Let's see if that's in camera. Oops, that's not very good measuring, is it? 16.66. So you can see it's a bit smaller. So although it looks the same, it's not actually the same at all. So so there's differences in the tone arms as well. Now, just for completeness, I'll go back and have a look at the fitting on this one. Now I found the calipers. Now this comes off quite easily. Let's so that's sort of 19 millimeters. Let's stick that into inch mode. Was I right? Yeah, I mean that's about 3/4 of an inch. So that's a sort of classic early fitting. Fell out of favour, but he's, you know, you will find it on machines. You just need to be careful when buying a sound box that you understand basically what the fitting on the machine is. And this isn't it, unfortunately. There are other fittings as well. This dare I say, this Gramola sound box, this was made by the gramophone company, so basically HMV. It's very, very similar to an exhibition. It's got a very slightly different fitting. So I think if I try to put that onto this tone arm here, it wobbles about because it's slightly bigger. But I bet it's not quite as big as the fitting on this one here. That would be far too easy. So that was apparently just a simple ruse to stop you buying a Gramola gramophone and then buying a better sound box. However, you know, with a small amount of adjustment, something like a Gramola sound box would actually fit something that was designed for say a number 4 or a number 2 or an exhibition like this one here. So I hesitate to mention this because something like this Gramola soundbox is fairly unusual. But I'm just going to go and grab another 1 or 2 soundboxes just so you get a bit of an idea. So here's a few more soundboxes. This is some wreck of a Columbia. Don't know what number that is, but you can see it's got the groove actually here. So essentially, it's kind of a bit like this. Getting hammer shot, but it's actually the other way around. And I suspect that this is an earlier Columbia soundbox, which is designed like this, probably to avoid the patent. So Victor and the gramophone company would have had the patent on this style here, and this would have been a patent avoiding exercise. Do it differently, it works just fine, I'm sure. I don't have a tone arm that fits this, but I'm sure that would work just fine, but it would have been to avoid a patent, I'm sure. Now this one here, this is an example of just the plain back. Let's give that a little measure. Let's put that back into inches because we're expecting it to be 3/4 of an inch. I don't know if I've ever measured this one before. That's interesting. That's actually bigger. That is bigger. Now it might be is the inside. No. So again, quite what that was designed for, I don't know, but that's just a little bit bigger than which one was it? This one here. Yeah. So again, goodness knows, but that doesn't fit. That doesn't fit any of the things I've talked about so far. What else did I bring over? Oh yes, this one here. This is yeah, though it's marked Selector, is actually marked Meltrope round here. The grill is punched MELTROPE, so Meltrope, and this is a Meltrope 3, I think. I'm not particularly familiar with these. This has a sort of knurled nut here and a rubber inside, and by using different thicknesses or whatever of rubber, you could get it to fit lots of different sound boxes. So sorry, lots of different tone arms. So that's great, except for the fact that the body on this one is pot metal and I can't get this knurled ring off. I'm worried that I'm just going to completely wreck the sound box. So that's that one. Now there was something else as well. I thought, what was it? What was I going to show you as well? Oh yes, this one here. Now this is a very uninspiring little sound box. It's not unlike actually the exhibition, and in fact it says the City Gramophone and Cabinet Company Grand Opera Deluxe model, and it's basically a bit of a looky-likey. It's trying to be this. It's trying to I think work on the basis that you know, the Gramophone Company was also known as the Gramophone and Typewriter Company, and if you're shopping for a gramophone, you might think, oh, what was that company name? The Gramophone Company, the Gramophone and Typewriter Company. Oh, the City Gramophone and Cabinet Company. That sounds right. So yeah, it's got a similar sounding name. It's got a similar looking sort of arrangement. I mean, it is actually different, but it's, you know, it's not unsimilar. The back actually, I'm pretty sure, but you know, I was wrong on the last one, so I might be wrong on this one too. Let's zero that off. Yeah, so that's hopefully that's coming out on camera. 7.75 inches. So basically, that should fit this tone arm here. I'm gonna just try and get it on a different camera, just out of a bit of ease. So it's there. Put this on like so, and you see that fits just fine. That would work with that tone arm. So yeah, so that's another thing there. So lots and lots of different sound boxes. I mean, this is interesting. It's got a sort of like needle chuck rather than the sort of screw like on most of them. Rather than this little screw here, it's actually got like a chuck, and it's got sort of a single spring here rather than sort of the arrangement, the sort of two spring or the pivoted arrangement like on this one here. I think that's probably all to do with trying to avoid patents and just maybe being different. I mean, this one's actually popped off its mounts. I need to take this to pieces and fix it. I'm sure it's a terrible sound box. It's gaudy, it's big. It looked the part, but it's not a quality sound box, I'm sure. So anyway, there we go. There's a little rambling on sound boxes and tone arms and tone arm fittings. There is so much that can be said about this. I mean, there were loads of companies. There were some standards, some variations from standards. But hopefully that's been interesting, if nothing else. And if you liked it, then do give me a like, and also I'd really like to hear and read your comments. You know, and especially if I've got stuff wrong or I've missed stuff, you know, please do let me know. This was completely off cuff. I'm doing this completely from memory. And also, if you have enjoyed this video, then you might like this one too. So thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.